Hello and welcome back. I am here with my good friend Tracy.
I'm here with my delightful friend Amber.
And this is the Road to Tarvalin podcast. Today, coming at you with 10 very strong opinions about the Wheel of Time Season 2 television show. The homework assignment was, at least what I gave to Tracy, I said, come and be prepared to defend it with your life.
Your life.
So,
with your life. You can't tell right now, but I'm wearing a very quiet suit of armor. Have my longbow next. No, I'm just kidding.
So what was your what's the first one on your list?
I actually made this one the first on my list. After all of the fantasy things that we watched together over this last year, like Lord of the Rings and House of the Dragon and whatever else was out there, Wheel of Time Season 2 was my favorite of all of them. I've gone back to watch this season a couple different times and I still get emotional. I still feel pulled in. I think about going back and watching season 1 of Lord of the Rings and I cringe because I'm like, would I have to? It was so not my thing. I just did not think it was that great. So my first one is I think this is the best fantasy show that came out this year.
Yeah. So the new House of the Dragon trailer just came out, like the teaser. And I was thinking about season 2 of the Wheel of Time in comparison to House of the Dragon season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, I thought House of the Dragon was better than season 1 of the Wheel of Time.
Yes.
But I enjoyed the Wheel of Time season 2 more than House of the Dragon. I think the problem, well, not the problem, I guess, but I guess what's good about the Wheel of Time is that it feels so much more complex. And I think this is an issue of them needing to cram in so much information into 8 episodes.
Yeah.
Whereas House of the Dragon was really like padded out. They had 10 episodes. They had that time jump where it felt like a much more like languid pace almost. I didn't feel like there was that heavy amount of like theorizing elements involved. Whereas with the Wheel of Time, it just felt like if you blink, you're going to miss something. And then you're going to be out of luck. Which, I mean, for me, I love that. I love being like super engaged and wanting to like find every little bit and piece. But it's not good for people who don't have that attention span.
Yeah, that's true. I do think it makes for like a really fun rewatch. Like if you're that, like if you don't catch it. I do that all the time so often where I like watch a show that feels really complex and I'll be like, oh my God, I missed so many things. And I'll just jump right back to the beginning and watch it all over again. And I'm like, oh, I missed this and I missed that. And that's so cool. Like I love the opportunity to come back and revisit it.
Yeah, there's still little things that I'm like picking up on as I went back and rewatched episodes. Like, for example, like who knocked Matt out and like dragged him to Toman Head or to Falm. I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, it was Tomas. It was Varen's warder. Duh. Because at that moment,
not duh. I didn't catch that.
Yvonne goes missing, and I think we're supposed to think that it's Yvonne, but it's Tomas.
Okay, so I totally did not catch that.
I'm 99.9% sure. I feel it in my gut.
No, I think you're right. Oh, wow. Okay. Because, like, for me, I was like a thug. Like, maybe they just got some random thug to do it. Or maybe even, like, Bill Doman.
I'm a thug. Sorry. Yes, no, Bill Doman, man. Enemy of the light, number 1.
Well, no. Okay, so the reason why I'm saying it is, like, and I mean, like, not that it sat with me for like longer than a second, like maybe it's Bill Doman, but like when he and Lanfear, like when they have their discussion, I'm like, well, he is kind of sort of working for her, but not. So yeah, it was just like maybe, but Tomas makes total sense.
There's a lot to be said
Mm-hmm.
about fantasy right now. There's so many good things out there, and
Yes.
not to be like, this is better, no, that is better. Like the goal here is just to have more good television, more good
Yes.
adaptations. So I love that.
Yeah. And I mean, like comparing this to House of the Dragon, one of the things that I really appreciated in Wheel of Time was that adult content did not feel cringy.
Mm.
Not in the same way as like places in House of the Dragon felt cringy. And even House of the Dragon did a better job than like Game of Thrones.
And I'm assuming you
Just
mean cringy, like something that you pull away from where it's like explicit.
yeah, yeah, and I'm like, oh, that's just way more than I need. I appreciate that they've handled it in such a classy way, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but I like that it's not taking up too much screen time. There's so much that has to be told. And so we focus more on really packing in the story and not necessarily spending minutes on someone's feet. That's kind of how I feel about it. I think it's the best one of the ones that came out this year. I talk about this show, like the season two, like I just feel so good about it that I'm like, you really should watch it. You really should watch it. Get through the first season. It's not great, but season two, totally worth watching in my book. I think it's so good.
All right.
So you're number one? Yeah.
Yeah, these aren't in any particular order. So, like, not
Yeah.
necessarily like the one that I feel the most strongly about, but I do feel strongly
Yeah.
about. This may be unpopular and I don't care. I'm sorry,
Yes.
I don't. But I
Can't wait
know
to hear
many
it.
people really disliked the family Domadrid drama, and I loved it. For some book readers, it's like, why are we spending time with Moraine's sister when we've got,
Yeah.
like Avienda and Perrin and Matt, like obviously very important characters. But there is something about having many, I know they're not teens in the show. I know they're, like 20 somethings, but regardless, as an adult, sometimes it is hard for me to really just get into the characters of younger characters.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what I really loved about Moraine's interaction with her sister, we've been saying this a lot about the Wheel of Time, how there is a space for you in the books or in the show if
Mhm.
you're a woman of a certain age. And like it affords all of these opportunities for actresses and actors to come in and be like, you know what? Like, you don't have to be a sexy 19-year-old to have like a hit
Mhm.
television show and make it interesting and make it dynamic and make it fun. And maybe like someone like my mom, because we like a lot of the same shows, but there's obviously an age difference there. And I'm thinking of like Downton Abbey or A Discovery of Witches, stuff like that, who Lindsay Duncan was actually in A Discovery of Witches. So I think it was really smart bringing that actress in and not
Mhm.
having just, I guess, spending some time with characters that are just, not young people. Like, I
Mhm.
think there is a grace and like a wisdom and a strength to these characters that is interesting to me. And I like watching that. It really hits this vibe that I really like about like drama television, where it's,
Mhm.
it's in this case, it's not about the magic, it's not
Mhm.
about sexiness, it's not about
Mhm.
like the visuals. It's like two really dynamic people having deep conversations with like layers of trauma and drama and
Mhm.
all of this type of stuff. And then you toss in Lord Barthanes, and then you've got this twist that comes. So, like, I think that that was done really well.
Yeah.
And while I do agree with some people who are kind of bummed out about Perrin and Matt not getting the big dynamic moments they were hoping for, I still really loved that Domadrid plot.
I feel it does so many things. And one of the things that really stood out to me was how like it's Lady Elise, right?
Envers.
Envers. I was like, I know I'm gonna get this totally wrong. That's Maureen's younger sister. So we also get this look at like what that slowed aspect of aging does in a family dynamic as well. And I think that Lady Envers also added like a really important component of almost like grandeur and gravitas. Every scene she's in, even when she's like prepping herself for the day, I love that little scene where she's just like getting dressed and she's putting her makeup on, she's putting her wig on. Like she's just so solid feeling. It's inspirational in a lot of ways too. Like that whole you don't have to be young to be attractive. That might be a good word.
Yeah, yeah.
And not necessarily just from like how they look, but in like how they pull you in to pay attention to them. And I think the actress they picked out is perfect. I think she's perfect. I
Yeah.
love her and Rosamund Pike together.
It was a lot of fun for me. I really enjoyed it. I'm really excited to see where that storyline goes. I
Right?
mean, I know where Matt and Perrin and Rand go. I don't
Yeah.
know where Anver, like what that storyline could bring and what
Yeah.
little treasures it could become.
Yeah. Did they, and we may have talked about this and I've completely forgot about it. Did they kill Barthanes?
It's left open-ended.
It
So,
is. Yeah. Like I'm like, did those guys show up to guard his cell or are they there to kill him? Because I mean, in the books, he dies. Tom's the one who kills him.
Tom kills Galdrian.
Galdrian. That's right. Barthanes. Isn't it assumed like it's a golem? Or what is it in the
Gray
Wheel of
Man,
Time?
I think, or
Yeah.
Gollum. I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember. I think there
Yeah.
was lots of blood involved, though.
That's all I really remember. I thought it was Tom, but you're right. It's Galdrian. I love that. I'm absolutely with you. I thought it was a really beautiful family component to add. I think it gives us another layer to who Moraine is. And like there's a scene where she and Swan are together and it's right before the guitar prophecy and Moraine actually looks really excited to go home and introduce Swan to her family. It's like the first thing she wants to do. Like to me that indicates that even though Moraine is kind of portrayed as being really cold, she's not. And it's this huge responsibility that's been kind of like thrust on her that like closes her down from her family. I don't think she would have chosen that otherwise.
No, no.
Okay, so something I do not like about the show, I
Ooh,
feel that there are
spicy.
I mean, maybe not. I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of inconsistencies when it comes to the strength of channelers and who can, like, how much a specific person can channel and whatnot. Like, it takes more than 5 Aes Sedai to make it rain in Kyrian to put out fires. But Moraine, who's not a Forsaken, who isn't even as strong as Nynaeve or Egwene or Elaine, takes out an entire fleet of ships by herself to save Rand.
This is a good point.
I'm just like, how does that work? Like Swan's supposed to be fairly powerful on her own. Why did she need to link with a bunch of other Aes Sedai to create rain
I guess that's if we're assuming that she has the same strength as she does in the books.
in the books? And I guess I'm also assuming that and the fact that since she's Amerlin, I mean, I know it's not always the strongest channeler who becomes Amerlin, but it generally goes along with it that you are one of the more powerful channelers in the tower.
Yeah, but at the point of the books, like there's not very many strong channelers left
Mm-hmm.
at all. It's Moraine, it's
Swan.
Swan, it's Cad Swain, and I mean
Yeah.
everyone else is kind
And like
of, you
four
know,
others.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, in some ways it makes sense, but then in other ways it's like, but you can do that? And even with like the Forsaken, when Land's like, you're not really still Moraine, it's just some crazy shield that's being held in place. And he's like, even a Forsaken couldn't still you by himself. And I'm like, really? Really? Lanfear can heal herself from being stabbed, having her throat
Well,
slashed open.
Lanfear didn't heal herself Okay, maybe she did, but I was under the impression that she was chosen by the Dark One. So this was like essentially a respawn.
Okay, I was actually going to ask you about that. I wrote that in my notes too, where I was like, well, maybe it's not her healing herself. Like maybe because of that deal with the Dark One, she doesn't have an option.
Initially, I thought the same, that it was just her healing herself.
Yeah. And I mean that would explain like how like the like that black look to like the
Yeah, the saw, it comes from channeling the true source. When it's going through her eyes, that's why I assumed she was healing herself because
yeah,
that
same.
comes from channeling. But
Mhm.
I don't know, it could have just been an Easter egg.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, yeah. But then also the way that Rand ends up killing Ishamael, where he's just like, I'm gonna channel for 2 seconds and it's gonna make my sword magically powerful and I'm just gonna be able to stab you and now you turn to dust. Like, okay. Egwene being able to stand against Ishamael for as long as she does, like that feels I don't know, that feels really far-fetched to me. Even the way that Mogideon handles Lanfear at the end of episode 8.
I have to disagree.
Ooh, tell me.
Okay, so the way that I interpreted that was Mogideon had the weave ready. So, like in the books, like
Oh.
if you're caught unaware and someone wraps you in a weave of air, like you're pretty much screwed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're
Mm-hmm.
able to counter it at the same time.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, Lanfear just was a little bit late on the draw, I felt like.
Yeah.
But again, like, I don't know. Like, I agree with what you're saying. I also just don't know I don't know if the show is even really like taking that much account into being like, okay, what is their strength in the
Mm-hmm.
books? You know, is
Mm-hmm.
that even
Okay.
something that we're really gonna spend a lot of time on? And
Mm-hmm.
frankly, I think that they should. But
Mm-hmm.
also, I have to wonder about this as a combined effort work of art, right? You have someone who writes the scene, you have the actors who act it without, there's no magic coming out of their fingers. They're
Right.
moving their arms, and then
Mm-hmm.
the video gets sent to the editor, and then the VHS, the the SFX crew has to layer in what the magic looks like.
Yeah.
So at that point, if not every single person involved on this like weird game of telephone isn't 100% all the details worked out, like there's room for things
Mm-hmm.
looking and feeling weird. It's incontinuity, really, is what we're
Mm-hmm.
talking
Mm-hmm.
about.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's, I'm not making an excuse for them. I'm saying that it's going to be hard for them to get everyone in
Yeah.
line and know
Yeah.
exactly what is the desired like outcome
Yeah.
for each little scene every single
Yes.
time someone is
Yeah.
channeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that was kind of what I was thinking too, where I was like, well, I mean, in the moment, it makes sense. When you're watching it, it all kind of feels like, okay, okay. But then there are other parts where I'm like, but really? Really? And I mean, it took, like, why does it only take one Aes Sedai to hold Rand with the shield? He's supposed to be the most powerful channeler pretty much on the planet and one person can hold him in place. And Leanne, at that, she's not even particularly powerful as far as I'm aware of. Like, but it only takes one woman to keep him shielded?
Where with
Like,
Logain, it took many more. But again,
yeah, at
Logain,
least
now that I think
two.
about it, has been like channeling for a longer time and knows what he's
That's
doing.
true.
So Logain was just waiting. It seemed like he could have broken that shield anytime he wanted. So, in fact,
Yeah.
like he's even stronger than I'm thinking of. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just, I don't know. They were just like, it's not like a deal breaker or anything for me for the show. It's just one of those things where for a moment it makes me kind of like step out of enjoying the show and being like, but wait a minute. And then I have to like turn that part of my brain off and go back into just like enjoying the show and be like, I'll think about that later.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard for us book readers, really,
Mhm.
because especially people that are, I mean, we're deeply entrenched in this, like
Right.
probably more than most, but
Yeah.
it's going to be totally different for someone who's just casually enjoying the show. These aren't the
Yes.
things that they will be thinking about
Not
at
at
all.
all. No. No, and I mean from like a visual perspective, I think they've actually done a really, really, really good job. I love the scene with Maureen when she's like about to blow up the Shanshan ships. I think it is so beautifully filmed. I just love it. So I mean visually, I think they've done a good job with the channeling. I think they've done a good job of showing like just a fraction of what is possible with the one power. And I'm really excited because like next season, I am going to assume is going to have way more channeling in it, and it's going to, I don't know, I feel like it's going to be really cool. I feel like they're finding their stride and
Yeah.
showing what it should look like.
So
Anyway,
let's move to the next. I'm
yes.
watching the clock here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
I'm no, 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 please do. I've got mine open so I can help with that as well. Yeah.
So this is actually one of mine that is a negative. I feel I don't even want to say this. I feel bad saying this, but
Oh, I can't wait to hear this. Okay.
I did not like the fight scene with Avienda and the White Cloaks. That was just
Ooh.
a miss for me. I'm
Oh,
sorry. I'm
okay.
sorry.
Oh, I want to hear. I mean, you know what? I barely noticed it. So I think that says a lot. Oh, wait, wait, wait. You mean the fight scene with like Avienda where she like pushes Perrin away and is like, I got this. Not like episode 8,
Right.
like
Right.
Avienda and
With
the
the
other
White
Aiel.
Cloaks like
Okay,
freeing
okay.
her.
Sorry, I was totally in the wrong scene. You don't like that scene.
Correct. Tracy's
That's
speechless.
I was about to be like, that's okay, Amber. You don't have to like it. And I mean, you don't. You absolutely don't have to like it. I do
This
like it.
has nothing to
Like,
do with the actress,
mm-hmm,
the way that they did all of the physical movements and stuff like this.
mm-hmm,
It was more about the writing and the choreography for
mm.
me that I just, you know, the trope where it's like 8 guys coming at one person with swords, but, you know, like they all
Yeah,
like wait on one another, you know, like they
yeah,
like form a line and it's like,
yeah.
well, first we beat this guy and then we beat this
Then
guy,
do
but this
this
guy just kind
one.
of stands off to the side for a few moments to like take
Yeah,
his turn.
mm-hmm.
They did that thing, which just why I understand why. I know why they do but still it is such a trope that I just it it is not my thing. And then secondly, we have that T Grain moment from season 1 with someone who's actually like a stunt performer. And T Grain like showed up in the waste as a young woman. She was not born into the society or culture. Yet she's had the greatest fight scene in the show, and she's not even really Aiel. And then you have Avienda, who's like Aiel from birth, and it's like clunky, a little bit more clunky, and they do the camera angles in that really like choppy way where it like before they make contact with, you know, body parts, then the camera angle changes and then the guy's just flying and I don't know. Maybe I like too much action. Like I'm an action movie person, so like seeing stuff like that, I'm just kind of like, oh, come on,
Like it
come
could be
on.
better.
Yeah, it could be better.
I think that's a really fair observation.
I know they don't want to handicap her and be like, just give her some boring little like fight scene, but honestly, if it
Mm-hmm.
was just one on one, like it could have been her and one guy, and it been like
Mm-hmm.
good. I would have loved it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to be
Yeah.
over the top, like, I don't know if it's like
That's a
8
really good
people or
point.
something running at her. Like, it could have
Yeah.
just been one guy
Yeah. I mean, what was the point of having so many guys show up?
if they're going to stand there and wait.
Yeah, and you know what? You know what I was thinking when you were talking about that? It's like Dane is even like go at her all at once and they don't.
Yeah.
And I was like, but didn't he tell you guys to go at her all at once?
And then they don't.
That was the part where I was like, I don't get what just happened. But I enjoyed the rest of the fight scene.
I am completely happy as well with
Mhm.
like episode 8 where Bane and Chiat are doing like they're doing some slick moves and shooting bows and stuff like that, and that was thoroughly enjoyable. It doesn't
Mhm.
have to be Jackie Chan level for me to like love it,
Right.
you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm just not a huge fan of the fight scene tropiness type things. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Eula Smart, I love you. I think you're wonderful. I love your character. I love you. That fight scene was
Uh-huh.
just the writing was weird. Sorry. But yeah, we can move on.
Okay. So I thought I was going to be like, these are all things that I love. But instead, I think Donald Finn is doing a great job as Matt. Here's another situation where I'm like, you, the actor, are like killing it. It's certain things about Matt's character that really bother me this season. Like, I feel like the writers have really just done some stupid shit with his character. Why do we have to have that weird trip dream? What was, why? What? Tripping doesn't tell you your past. And like, if you believe the stuff that happens when you're tripping and it changes your entire life so that, I don't know, you become this weird immortal creature
Tracy's
tied
about
to
to
the dark
offend
one.
every single person that believes in like ritualistic ayahuasca consumption. I don't know how big of a percentage of our fan base is one of those people,
Okay,
but
so
apologize in
thank
advance.
you. Thank you for pointing that out because I actually do think that there is a lot of validity to that as like finding a way to who the person you can potentially become. I do
Oh,
think it
how the
has a
tables have
place.
turned.
No. I think it has its place, but I do not think for Matt, like I don't know why they did that. Like I don't know why this is the way that they chose to give him like certain parts of his character that should have happened later and with the Finn. And that whole like his mom being there and yelling at him and stuff, like I just didn't like that at all. Like I don't know. He wears the same ratty outfit from season 1 all the way through to the end of season 2. Nobody can get that guy a change of clothes. Like, not even Leandrin is like, you know what? We should probably maybe at least get you a better suit of clothes of some kind. I don't know.
I don't
It's just like,
Yeah, that scene was a little banana pants, if you will.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why someone just didn't say, how about we just have men have a vision and see him? That could
Well,
have
because
worked.
she's because she's another character I feel like the writers kind of screwed over too.
The problem is they didn't know what to do with Matt, I don't think. Because we
Mhm.
had the issues from season 1 where he's, left in
Yeah.
Tarvalin or stays in Tarvalin, I guess. It's too bad. It's too bad because I think that issue from season 1 really affected where they went with Matt, and it just seemed like they'd
Yeah.
hit a wall, like what do we do with this guy?
Yeah.
What do
Like
we do
until we
with
can
young
get
Matrim?
him. Yeah, until we can get him to a point where you're like, ah, and here's Matt's actual storyline. And I really don't think that that happens until episode 8. And even then, it's a little weird. I love that he's like, I was a hero once. I remember who I am. And I love that he looks jubilant. Like I think Donald Finn is seriously like just he's so much more Matt. I think one of the reasons why he does like such a good portrayal is like he has to follow up on what Barney Harris established, and I actually really like Barney Harris. So I feel like Donald Finn like has this pressure, and I think he does a really good job. And like the physical parts of like what he's doing are so fun, but that's the other thing is like now he has this weird bedpost spear tied together with a piece of string that somehow makes it through an entire battle scene.
Ooh,
I'm just like, we could.
I'm gonna have to tell you to wrap it up so I can do my next one because it is that point.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on, let me
Okay,
move it
go.
in my notes.
See, I knew at
So
some point.
I believe that Dagger on a Stick is absolutely fine, and I do not care. I do not care about Ashendare, Matt. Dagger on a Stick, Matt, is totally fine with me, and I will tell you why. First off,
I just love you calling it Dagger on a Stick. It sounds like a corn dog.
so here's why
Matt, he's
Dagger on a
corn
Stick
dog.
is okay.
Okay, go. I'm so sorry.
I know when Brandon Sanderson got like a bunch of sand in his panties about Dagger on a Stick, I understand why he was upset by it. I get it. But
Okay.
they did the exact same thing that Brandon Sanderson does later. And based on that is why it works so well for me. Because they're counting on Matt's scrappy ability to like come up with a solution on the quick, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's always a little bit of luck involved too. Showcasing this really goes hand in hand with the Aridhol connection. So Morda shows up at Aridhol and he's like, hey, look, I've got this really great idea. Jazz hands. We're going to use the dark. We are going to use the dark against the shadow. Dust hands off. Everyone's like, great idea. Let's do it. Doesn't work out. So Matt ends up with Dagger up on that stick. Sorry. Dagger on a stick. And he does the same thing. Only this time he's like, hey, look, see this thing? See this thing that holds darkness, that holds evil, that holds the shadow? Yeah. I'm going to employ it against the shadow, but this time it's going to work. And now I would understand why someone wouldn't like that.
Yeah.
But Brandon Sanderson does the exact same thing with Matt when he's like, hey, all you people from Hinder's Tap that keep dying because of, I don't know, the fabric of reality is falling apart. I'm going to use this darkness and weaponize it against the shadow in the last battle, which he does with Hinder's Tap. And like, it's the exact same thing. So like Brandon Sanderson being like upset about it is hilarious to me because he did the exact same thing. He did the same thing. I don't know. I think Dagger on a Stick is fine. My only hope is that it gets like reattached permanently in a way that isn't so, I don't know.
Janky? It feels a bit janky. I love that. I love your perspective on that. And I'm glad you said it.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Do you want me to do my next one?
Sure.
I have decided that I think the show portrays realistic relationships better than the book. And that might not be like a woo, wow, like kind of statement. Like maybe that's kind of obvious question mark. I don't know. But like for me, there are so many parts about it that I just think are like the family relationships, like what you were talking about with Family Damodred, how like that's one of your favorite parts about the show, and that is centered around relationships, like things that make you feel. The reaction that Matt has to seeing Rand and then later on Perrin, they're so well done. There's just so many points where like I feel like they've been able to establish relationships that make you in some ways feel like that feels good or that feels really wrong. And I think they've done a good job of picking like minor characters to work with as well because like I'm thinking about Rima in particular. And not that she's like a minor character, quote unquote, but like she's not a main character. I definitely say she's unforgettable. I think her and her warder Basan. Like I just loved it. They were so good. Like there's no small acting in the show.
Do you know what Rafe Judkins loves?
What?
He loves the Warder Bond. I think he loves the shit out of it. Think of some of the most beautiful moments in season 2.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's Moraine and Lan, like
that's
channeling that scene on the beach.
Yep, that's written
Rima
down
and
right
her
here.
warder doing that little look, you know, before they get
she
going.
Winks at him. Oh my god!
He loves the water bond.
It's so good.
Here.
It's your turn.
So, um,
Yes.
I enjoy the bad guys, not so much evil characters, but like the heels
Uh-huh.
much more than our
Uh-huh.
than our good guys.
Uh-huh.
They are more dynamic, they are more fun, they are more entertaining, they are more humorous. They have like a real deepness to them. Ishamael,
Mm-hmm.
they are
Mm-hmm.
so good. The bad guys
Mm-hmm.
are the best characters in the show.
I actually had on my list, which was that like I really was expecting to not like Lanfear in the show. Like I'd never seen Natasha O'Keeffe in anything, and so I just didn't know what to expect from her. Her switch into Lanfear, her facial expressions, the way her makeup is done, the way her hair is done, that outfit as she's storming through Kyrian, I'm like, I love all of this.
Yeah, there's a real playfulness about her. All of them. When I'm thinking of all of the Forsaken so far have this like playful quality to them
Mm-hmm.
that is so needed. And it's hilarious that it's like the bad guys, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, Moraine and Lan, like, absolutely humorless, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. And that's
They're
fine. They're
so
not,
straight laced.
that is not their role to fill.
Mm-mm.
But
Mm-mm.
even Matt, who's like the lovable goofball,
Mm-hmm.
even Ishamael is funnier. Like, I'm sorry, like Ishamael caressing Lanfear as Rand's face, that was hilarious to me. So I don't know.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what it's going to be like to add more. And I mean, the actress that they've got for McGideon, I think it was brilliant to leave the end of the season there by introducing this really dynamic new character. It's not necessarily like a cliffhanger, but it is still like a hook, I feel like.
I'm ready for people to really like Mo Gideon in a way that I feel like her character is completely overlooked for the book readers. Like, so many people don't care about Mo Gideon. That's fine. I always appreciated that character, but I'm
Mhm.
excited as a Mo Gideon fan for like everyone else to be a Mo Gideon fan. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Mhm. Yeah, I was excited when she was introduced.
That's how you wrap up a season. You solve the main problem and then you leave a question, and I
Mhm.
love that. So, good for
Mhm.
them. Good for them. So, what's your next one?
I think the women steal the show. And I feel like in some ways, maybe that's totally intentional, but the quality of so many of the female actors in the show are just like I can see where people feel like Rand and Perrin and Matt are like they're not getting the level of screen time that's potentially expected for them at this time, and we're really kind of putting a lot of the women in the forefront, but they're so good. Like they're just so good. They're so satisfying to watch. I think they make the show. I think they make the show what it is and what it's really good. And I mean, I think that like as the show goes along, we're going to be seeing more opportunities for Matt and Brand and Perrin to like step into their characters too.
Yeah, it's a smart marketing technique as well because so often most of our fantasy nowadays, like there's a good mix, like even The Witcher, like you got men and women that are entertaining and share screen time together. So
Mhm.
if the Wheel of Time focused mainly on Rand, Matt, and Perrin, I'm gonna be real, like it probably wouldn't be a show that I would watch if
Yeah, same.
I hadn't read the books already. Like if it was
Mhm.
something I was just coming to and I was like, ooh, like another chosen one, got the big
Mhm.
bad guy and he's gonna fight the other
Mhm.
guys, like
Mhm.
it's a dime a dozen, really.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I understand like that could push away some of your male fans, but I know it's hard But I think some men just have to realize that not everything is made for them.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Weird.
Well, I'm not trying to be provocative or anything either. It's just that so often like media is
Mm-hmm.
made for men. So often too, like the topics or the style of shows or writing, if it's something
Mm-hmm.
that's made for women, it's usually deemed like less than. Like romance novels. Like
Mm-hmm.
those aren't real books. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Focusing on some of the female characters and really kind of like bumping them up
Mm-hmm.
into the pivotal beginning of the series, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's smart. You're going to get
Mm-hmm.
people invested in this show. And we all know that the men aren't just going to like drop off the face of the earth and
Yeah.
not show up next
Right.
season. So it's like
Yeah.
really silly to me.
Mm-hmm.
I understand like it not if you're a big fan of a certain character being like bummed out. Like I totally get it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
my heart goes out to you
Mm-hmm.
because for real, like that sucks. But
No,
at the
yeah.
same time, there are people who their expectations of the Wheel of Time are like manly men doing magic, mean women doing magic and like, you know what I mean? Like everyone has their expectation
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's okay.
Yeah.
But I respectfully ask for, some people to, like just relax a little bit, man. Like not everything's going to be made for you, and that's okay. It's not
I That's
a
so well
reason to
said.
get like hateful about
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah. It's really well done. When I go back and I watch it again, certain aspects of the physical acting that takes place that is just like either it's their faces or that moment when Elaine and Nynaeve hold hands as Rhyme is being taken away. Like my heart
That's the
aches.
scene. Like that is my favorite scene, I think. Just like visually, like just that single image speaks to me in such a way that I cannot describe.
I tear up every time.
It's
And I don't
good.
even know how many times I've watched that scene. So well done. I think it's compelling. I think they've picked really good people all around for the cast. I'm really eager to see Rand grow next season because of what he's been through this season and the season
Girl, next
before.
season is
Like,
going to be wild. It's
I
going to be
can't
wild. I'm ready
wait.
for the Rand show. I am ready.
Oh, God. Like,
I'm ready for the Rand and Perrin show.
yeah. This is going to be so good. And I feel like way more confident in how season 3 is going to turn out than I did in how season 2 was turned out because I thought season 2 was really good. But the women they just kill it for me across the board.
Was that your last one?
I think so. Hmm.
Okay, so I'm on my last one. This one's kind of tricky because
Mm.
one of the things that I really liked about season two is the added layer of complexity. And we already talked about how this is good for book readers. Book readers like this type of stuff. Make it complex, make it deep, make
Yeah.
it worth rewatching, looking for clues, stuff like that. But as much as it's great for the book readers, it can be confusing for the show only people.
Yeah.
And I think the only way that you can fix that in a way that it works for both types of viewers is adding episodes and kind of spreading things
Yeah.
out. I know it's
Mhm.
better for the budget. It's harder to spread money out like that for 10 episodes than
Yeah,
versus
for sure.
8. But I think that there's ways to be creative about it and not really like lose quality.
Can we start a petition or something? The petition for 10 episodes per season. We know Amazon's got the money for it. Like,
I understand it works for certain shows like The Boys
mhm.
or, other things that they're doing, but The
Mhm.
Wheel of Time is not that. Like they are
Mm-mm.
cramming the show, and in the process of doing that, it feels like a speed run. And then
Mhm.
like every time you're switching point of views and going to different characters,
Mhm.
it's almost dizzying.
Mm-hmm.
It's a consistency thing, and they're still
Mm-hmm.
finding their footing, I think.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm. And I mean, in some ways, it's very Robert Jordan, where it like feels just slightly drawn out in some
sure, it's
places.
Robert Jordan, but make it better. Do
Well, that's just
better.
it. Is like you have that opportunity, to do better, to make things better. And in some ways, I think that they really, really have.
But that's all I had. So everybody, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for
Thanks for
listening.
listening.
Yeah.
We appreciate your feedback.
Mm.
Feel free to tell us if you agree or disagree with any of our statements.
Yeah.
And thanks for joining us on the road to Tarvalin.